Hello, today we are going to discuss some good repository practices to implement on your daily basis. These are some of the good practices that we are going to discuss today. Now, let's talk about the usage of milestones and issues. The milestones will help you define clear objectives and provide a structured timeline, allowing teams to break down the project into manageable phases and monitor progress towards major goals. For example, for this course, the milestones were the sprints. Now, the issues will provide comprehensive information in the issue format description. This will include the steps to reproduce, expect, and compare results and relevant context to ensure clarity and facilitate efficient problem solving. The usage of labels to categorize these issues, for example, bug, feature, and enhancement, and the assignment to the specific members of the team will help you define responsibility and prioritize work efficiently.
Okay, so another strategy would be the branching strategy, where different developers each code in their own branch. So this can benefit isolation of features, and they can fix their bugs and do experiments and do another like integration without like affecting the main branch. So these multiple branches allow different teams or developers to work currently on various parts of the project. So without every developer touching the main branch and causing conflicts, each developer can have their own branch. Furthermore, the regularly merchant rebase strategy complements the one before, where this can reduce chances of complex conflicts and handling smaller issues. Uh, it it helps like integrate all the branches and can be useful for tracking the development process. The benefits of regularly rebasing is that it's linear and easy to read commit easy history without merge conflicts, and it can cause traceability of the project history, especially for long-lived branches.
Okay, going on with the good practices, now we have the pipelines implementation. This will help us with the automatization of building, testing, and developing software. A pipeline give us early insights that will help us to detect errors that we are making in our code, and we don't need to end the development cycle to get those insights, so we can detect errors earlier. It is divided into different stage or steps, like the information injection, the software development, the insights for the analysis, etc. It helps us with the consistency and transparency because we can see the status of every change that our team is doing, so we can get an early feedback too.
Okay, so the pull request consists of code reviewing and accepting each other's commits to the main branch. So this can provide an opportunity for the other developers to review the code, and this improves the quality of the code because other developers are checking if this code is functional and good for the main branch. This often can trigger automated test and continuous integration pipelines. And this also helps to serve as a historical record of why and how these changes were made.
And finally, I wanted to talk about the tag release and documentation. We believe this is a very good practice in order to build a good software for scaling in the future. For example, write clear and concise tag messages. It could be describe the purpose of the release It include details like, for example, bug fixes, new features, or dependency addresses. So it's very important to take advantage on by documentation, and of course the the dependencies that our project could have is really important and crucial because other developers will see our project. And the second one is, for example, they store the documentation within the same repository as our code. This ensures version control and easy access for the team working on different releases. So we have to keep in mind this good practice.
Well, now let's talk about the correct use of the gitignore file. First of all, what is a gitignore file? Well, this is a configuration file that tells Git which files and directories to ignore. So, what is the main point of this? Well, this is used in order to prevent unnecessary, automatically generated, or development environment specific files from being included in our repository. But why is this important? Well, there are three main reasons. The first one, keep our repository clean. Avoid cluttering the history with temporary or locally configuration files. The second one, to reduce repository size, ignoring large automatically generated files, reduce the repository size. And the last one, it's about security. In order to prevent the inclusion of sensitive files like API keys, passwords, and environment-specific files configurations files. Okay, now let's see the basic structure. A gitignore file has a very basic syntax. This kind of file use blank lines and lines starting with hashtag are comments. Use glob patterns to specify which files to ignore. And we have now a very basic example from a gitignore file. First of all, we have uh, this part for ignore development environment directories, such as Node modules or VS Code. Then it's very common to ignore log files. And also it's very important to ignore build files because of the size of the file. And the last one is very important to ignore personal configuration files in order to keep the security of our work.
Hi, today I'm going to talk about what a clear repository structure means. For example, this is for Android development. Google recommends to use at least two layers of the three main layers in a in order to build a good software. For example, the UI layer, it has the responsibility to handle all the changes on all the state of the data that could change. For example, when we draw some components in the UI element, it's very important to keep in mind that we have to handle the data that the user is passing. So with the build models, we're going to do that. So of course, with dependency injection. So the domain layer is for complex, I don't know, complex functionalities. For example, some calculation that is could be difficult. So we have to separate from the UI layer. So the data layer is the responsibility. It has the responsibility to handle all the repositories. So we know that if we have to create each one repository for each entity, and of course the data source, where we are going to have all the source that we are pulling or getting. So this is the layer, the data layer. It could be local or it could be remote.